Artemis Fowl, written by Irish author Ian Colfer, was released in 2001 in the UK to be distributed in the US in 2002, receiving very positive critics' reviews. The story details the criminal escapade of the titular Artemis Fowl Jr., a 12-year-old prodigy and heir that uses his substantial wit and bodyguard butler to discover and kidnap a fairy. Said fairy, one Holly Short, is the first female officer in the fairy special ops force known as Leprechaun and employed under Commander Julius Root. The book is a wild ride of the fairies arming their highly advanced tech against Artemis in an attempt to retrieve Holly, including a very odious dwarf named Mulch Dickums and sending in a rabid troll, only to succumb to his plan and end up losing $5 million worth of their gold supply. The book ends with Artemis retaining his fairy knowledge and the fairies knowing that the human world has quite the adversary on their side. And now we have Disney's Artemis Fowl. Released on June 12, 2020, it was originally slated for a theatrical release, but due to whatever's happening in the world right now, it was instead distributed across Disney+, and now it's made its rep as another stain across the name of book-to-movie adaptations. Seriously, I have to wonder why Disney thought it was a good idea to produce a movie based on the book. If memory serves, Disney is a distributor of the books in America, but that's an entirely different ballpark. The books go out as is, while the movie is strained and wrung out until the barest vestiges of what makes Artemis Fowl itself remain, and are then Mickey Mouseified until the execs think it's safe enough for the 10 and under fan base. Artemis Fowl is a book series written for children, but Disney movie production takes it to a whole different level. This video goes over the 6 most egregious points that the movie stuffs in its adaptation, and for those who say,
well, an adaptation is not required to be one for one. That's why the book still exists.
There will be a part 2 of this that goes on to explain why Artemis Fowl the movie, book notwithstanding, still wasn't worth its budget. Anyhow, on to the points. The director didn't understand the essence of the character, Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl is a criminal mastermind prodigy, the kind of kid who spends hours upon hours locked in his room devising new schemes to make millions. He is unflappable, callous to the point of complete indifference, and across the first 2 books is only capable of having a relationship with his parents and the butlers. He wears Armani suits and had to be guilt-tripped by his mother into wearing something as plain as a t-shirt. He borderline moans about any sort of physical activity. Artemis Fowl is not a kid who goes out surfing, riding hoverboards, dresses straight from the Hot Topic catalog, sings woe is me arias about his father being kidnapped, or shares pitiful life stories with a fairy that he kidnapped for ransom. Artemis Fowl Sr. knows nothing of the people. Literally, the only reason for this direction was to give Artemis Jr. a bonding point with Holly. Contrived as it was, it also breaks Senior's established character. Senior was a business-minded criminal overlord who knew nothing of fairies in the book series. The movie also makes no effort to amend this change by glossing over how Senior learns so much about the people despite their very, very high security against human knowledge. I think he even had pages from the book that only fairies carry. You can only pry from a fairy's cold, dead fingers. Hell, if he killed a fairy, that's one point towards the book's direction. What the hell happened to the Butler siblings, or should I say cousins? Why were they made black? There were no creative liberties taken. They were very clearly described as Asian with some European background. Butler was described as bald, Juliet was described with long blonde hair, not to mention Juliet is 16 and Butler's sister. And just, why black? I wouldn't care so much if not for the don't call him Butler line. Come off it. The script was written long before whatever the hell is happening with the world right now. But even so, there is a clear correlation with 2 of those changes. And yes, that line also shits on the book's reveal of Butler's first name, which only happens in the 3rd book and in a very emotional scene. Commander Root is a woman. Again, wouldn't care as much if it didn't break established canon, although the chosen actress is quite bland in my opinion. Much of Holly Short's public disfavor came from her being Leprechaun's first female officer. Having Root made female undermines 80% of her struggles and 100% of their relationship. Opal Koboi is not some Palpatine-esque character. She doesn't go ghosting around in some cloak with a voice modulator. In fact, Opal will spare nobody the pleasure of showing her beautiful face and voice. And while attempting to use some magical MacGuffin to rule the world as par for her course, she would not go kidnap a human and broadcast herself as having kidnapped a human. The general tone of the movie is different from the books altogether. The novels are a coming-of-age type thing where Artemis starts as a villain, antisocial, thinks of just about everyone as beneath him, runs circles around his parents because he can, basically. He just disregards everyone with lower intelligence. The movie Artemis, however, is your standard teenager thrown into a supernatural/fantasy world, eager to be the good guy, risk himself for the greater good. Now the story is no longer about the morally rich transition of villain to hero. Now it's a very plain, by the book, unassuming middle/high schooler becomes a hero to save those he cares about. Harry Potter is a very good movie adaptation. Not perfect, mind you, but compared to Artemis Fowl, it's legendary. Because out of everything the Harry Potter movies did, they never lost the essence of the eponymous character. Harry, in the book and the movie, was always sort of a dork, overwhelmed by the history he's had since he was a toddler, and always fights to do the right thing, even if it's against Voldemort himself. The character development wasn't stuffed up either, which is a plus. Final recommendation, don't waste an hour and 30 minutes of your life.